7 years ago, I met a woman named Victoria. Victoria was an educator, a writer, and a world traveler. She's told me incredible stories about all of her adventures and trips around the world. She is a kind and compassionate woman that loves to learn and share her knowledge with those around her. Over the years, she has become a very dear friend. Now, in addition to all of the qualities that make her a unique and interesting woman, Victoria also suffers from severe paranoid schizophrenia and has been in and out of hospital settings for years. Victoria's waking hours are consumed with voices telling her horrific things and experiencing intense delusions that turn the world around her into the worst horror movie you can imagine. Frequently, when Victoria and I are visiting, she will need to pause our conversation to quiet her voices. She'll give me signals. This means I need to stop talking, and this means she's going to stop. So, despite the constant intrusion of her voices, Victoria remains engaged in our conversation, and she loves to hear all about the things that have taken place in my life since our last visit. About 6 months ago, Victoria and I were talking, and she paused to quiet her voices. She turned to look at me and asked, "Why can't I be normal like you? Why did this happen to me? And how come I can't make it stop?" In that moment, I was speechless. I mean, how do I respond to her? What do I say? And ultimately, what I said was simply, I don't know. I don't know why this happened to her and not me, and I don't know why she can't make it stop. But what I also said was this: we all experience life in very, very different ways. She experiences a reality that I can't begin to understand. No one can, unless they experience it as well. You see, in Victoria's case, it is clear that she is thinking and experiencing things that others around her are not. Her symptoms and her behaviors are apparent. But for many individuals experiencing a mental illness, what they are thinking or feeling is invisible to the outside world. In conditions like anxiety and depression, you may never see it or know that a person is struggling intensely with something they cannot control. Their public, professional, and social lives paint a picture of happiness, while their inner turmoil remains hidden. They become very good at masking what's really going on inside. I know I certainly did. You see, like all of us, I have a story, and mine is one that most people don't know about. I have struggled with anxiety disorder for most of my life. Early on, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what it meant. You hear anxiety, but what is that? All I really knew was how I felt. And it took me a long time to start to understand what I was feeling, to understand why I couldn't always pinpoint a cause for it, and why I couldn't make it go away. I've been incredibly fortunate to have supportive family and friends in my life that I felt comfortable opening up to. And over the years, they've given me perspective, they've encouraged me to seek help when I've needed it, or they've simply lent a supportive ear and allowed me to talk through the things that I was struggling with. Anxiety for me is a daily struggle. Some days are better than others, some situations are better than others. I spent more than a few minutes backstage power posing to be able to be out here in front of you guys today. Sometimes it's better than others, but it's something that I'm aware of all the time. And I really have to focus and make an effort to manage my thoughts and my feelings every day. But from the outside, you may never know that I'm a person that struggles with anxiety. Except for the fact that I've now just told all of you. So there you go. But I think that's one of the hard things in understanding mental illness. With the exception of some of the most severe cases, like what I described in Victoria, there seems to be this disconnect between internal feelings and external appearances. And I think people often assume that if you appear put together and healthy and happy on the outside, that certainly you must be all of those things. But the reality can in fact be very different. While there has been some improvement, the stigma around mental illness is real and prevalent. And it's words and phrases like, "You're fine," "Oh, don't worry about it," "Oh, she's crazy," "It's a personality weakness," "They're just being lazy," "What a drama queen," "Why can't they just snap out of it?" Words and phrases like this cause a great deal of shame and fear and isolation for individuals experiencing a mental illness. Now, at some point, I'm sure we've all heard and maybe even said phrases like this. And whether we've meant to or not, our words perpetuate the problem. You see, it's the stigma around mental illness that causes individuals to hide, to not speak up, and to not seek treatment when they need it. The things that we see in the news and on TV and in movies also has a huge impact on that picture that we have in our mind of what mental illness is. And that picture is very often inaccurate or incomplete. The reality is, individuals experiencing a mental illness of any kind are real people with a real biological condition. Mental illness is not a choice, and it's not simply a result of bad families, bad parenting, or a bad environment. Victoria asked me, "Why can't I be normal?" So I ask you, what is normal? Currently, 1 in 5 Americans will experience a mental illness in a given year. Look around you. That's the people right here in this room. Mental illness can affect anyone, regardless of age, race, gender, or socioeconomic status. It can affect any one of us at any given time. Now, here in the Brookings community, we also have the benefit of being home to South Dakota State University, which means every fall we have an influx of thousands of students that are going to call Brookings their home for a very important time in their life. But in addition to all of the wonderful things that college life brings, it also happens to be the time in life where many mental health conditions start to appear. 75% of mental health conditions will begin by the age of 24. And suicide, the second leading cause of death among 15 to 24-year-olds. So I'm often asked, what is the difference between mental illness and mental health? Well, these terms are frequently used as if they mean the same thing. They don't. Mental illness, as I mentioned, is an illness. It's a real biological condition, and it's very prevalent. But not everyone will experience a mental illness in their lifetime, right? You may not be the 1 in 5. But everyone has mental health, just like everyone has physical health. Mental health includes things like our emotions, our thoughts and our feelings, our connection to others, and our ability to persevere in the face of struggle. Mental illness, again, is an illness, and it affects the way people think, feel, behave, and interact with others. There are many different types of mental illness, and they affect people's lives in very, very different ways. So maybe you're not the 1 in 5, but with information like this, isn't it clear that mental illness and mental health affects all of us? We should all be working together to make a difference. So why is it so hard for us to talk about mental illness or mental health? If we really think about it, we all know someone that has been impacted. It could be a friend, a family member, a colleague, a roommate, or yourself. I'm sure we can all call on a personal experience of some kind. So why is it still so hard? I was talking about this recently with a clinician and colleague, and ultimately what we landed on was fear. There's still a lot that we don't know and understand about the brain and about mental illness, and people tend to be afraid or skeptical of the unknown. So maybe it's that we're afraid of what someone might say to us. We're afraid of how we'll respond. We're afraid to do or say the wrong thing. We're afraid that somehow our words will make it worse, or will plant an idea in their head. But all of these possibilities come down to one thing, and that's fear. And fear causes us to stay silent. So instead of asking our friend how she is and truly hoping for an honest answer, we either ask in a way that only allows for a simple, "I'm fine," or we don't ask at all. We ignore it. We decide it's not our problem. We tell ourselves if he really wanted to talk about it, he would. Can you guys start to see the problem here? We have individuals that are experiencing mental illness, not speaking up and not reaching out for help because of the stigma and the shame and the fear. And on the other hand, we have individuals that are not supporting and reaching out to their loved ones because they're afraid they're going to do it wrong. This becomes a vicious cycle that has to be broken. As a population, we are so quick to get behind physical ailments. When a person speaks up about an illness or posts on Facebook about an injury or a surgery, we're so quick to provide support and kind words and thoughts and prayers. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I am not in any way saying that we shouldn't show support for those issues. All I'm trying to say here is, why can't we show the same kind of support for someone struggling with a mental health condition? Our brain is the control center of our body. If our brain is not functioning properly, how do we expect the rest of our body to? So how do we overcome our own fear and misconceptions about mental health in order to create a more open and accepting community? I personally think it's about going back to the basics. Seeing the person first and not the illness. At our core, we all want to feel love and belonging and connection to others. We all want to have our basic needs met. I believe the way to address this complex issue is to reframe the way we think about mental illness and mental health. So when Victoria asked me, why can't I be normal? Maybe what I should have said is, there is no normal. I mean, not really. There's just life and how we experience it. And once we throw out our ideas and our preconceived notions of what normal is, maybe then we can finally open our eyes to the wonderfully diverse world around us and accept and embrace the differences of others. When we treat each other with the respect and compassion and support we all need, we are creating a community where no one has to feel alone. When we start to educate ourselves and each other about the real stories behind mental illness and not the stigma associated, we break down barriers. And when we understand that a person is not defined by their mental illness, we are better able to care for each other. I would ask all of you to think about your daily interactions. How are you treating people around you? What words and phrases are you using to describe an individual or a situation? I would encourage you all to respect and appreciate the unique and beautiful person behind the brave face. Every single one of us can make a difference in the life of someone impacted by mental illness by simply speaking and acting in a way that preserves personal dignity. I've spent a number of years working to raise awareness about mental health, and one of the things that I learned very early on is that no one can do it alone. So today I ask you to join me in working to create a community where we can talk openly about mental health. Help me give voice to the issues that so many are struggling with in silence. Thank you.